Welcome to Old Guy Talks to Me, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. Ladies, if you want to know what your guy is thinking, this podcast is for women too. Each week, a special guest helps you create that life you've imagined. We talk anti-aging medicine, personal growth, relationships and hot sex. Yeah, you hear me, getting laid more frequently, other guy vices, and topics that many don't want to talk about but need to. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you have to be old. Don't want to miss anything? Be sure to subscribe, share, rate, and review this podcast. And be sure to go to www.thestandard.academy/magazine and grab a free copy of our new digital magazine, The Standard Academy, where we talk about erogenous zones, growing hair back, and other things that will help you create that kick-ass life. Now get ready to listen up and share with friends.
This is Oris, the official old guy at oldguytalkstome.com, a podcast dedicated to helping guys create kick-ass lives for themselves and those that they love. And part of that is finding someone that, you can love or at least like. And also, if you are in a relationship, keeping it from getting stale, because that happens a lot. And probably it's as important to be dating when you are in a committed relationship as much as it is when you're looking to find someone to get into a committed relationship. So today I have Susan Semeniw, and she is the president and lead love coach for Divine Intervention Matchmaking, a company that she started about 16 years ago out of a passion for naturally connecting and helping others. She has always found people either a job or partner and continues to be fascinated by everyone's personal stories. She's always been the go-to gal for advice on relationships and matters of the heart. Susan has been up close and personal with thousands of singles. The company has a success rate of over 70% at helping their clients find and keep relationship. And the company was awarded the Consumer Choice Award for Best Dating Service in Vancouver and voted top 3 dating companies in Calgary. And she's on the board of she's been on the board for several years for the Global Love Institute. And she's headquartered in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is a great town to visit. But we were there several years ago, but they made smoking cigars illegal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can't even go into a cigar shop and smoke a cigar. And they're usually locked behind. It's probably easier to buy fentanyl than it is to buy a cigar in Vancouver because it's locked on a double lock. I was stunned when I was there. But we're getting off topic.
That's okay, Boris. That's fine.
That was my major memory. That wasn't my major memory when we were in Vancouver for a week, but that was one of them. So, Susan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Oris, for having me. I love your enthusiastic demeanor.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, so, yeah, usually it wanes by the early afternoon, depending on the situation, of course.
Right.
We can talk about that later. Susan, so that's pretty interesting success rate, 70%. I think that's wonderful. How has dating changed today from where it was when you first started 16 years ago? What's the difference in terms of dating now?
Well, there's so many different options available to the consumer. And when I started, online was probably just at the beginning stages. People were leery of it. And today it's the primary tool that people use. And I would say back then too, people kept a lot of the dating stuff in the closet, like they weren't as open about it. And now it's such an explosive and expanding industry. And it's something that's always topical, top of mind, and it's not uncommon to be the go-to kind of interesting topic anywhere. And people are always interested about it, but it's in the forefront. It's always in the news. There's always changes, adaptations, and the internet and technology has changed the way that people date today.
Yeah. I actually had a former fiance. This was over 30 years ago. And we broke up, we broke up and still managed to stay friends. But she
That's
went,
good.
this is kind of interesting. She was a very smart woman. And she went to a dating service.
Mhm.
And those are the days, and maybe you're probably too young to remember, but they actually had VCR cassettes.
Oh,
that
no,
you
we
would
had
pop it.
VCRs. I remember that day.
Oh, though okay, yeah, and she was but this was over 30 years ago. And so she actually found her husband, who was kind of a very much on par. But she did an interesting thing, and I don't know whether you find, I don't know, I don't really get into the fees on the program, but she made sure that she did not go to a bargain dating service
Right.
because she wanted that filter. Not that there can't be assholes that make money, but she wanted to make sure that she wasn't. She was a physician, and she wanted to make sure that she was getting someone that, in terms of her socioeconomic, her educational level, and things like that. And so she went to a place that cost a few $1,000s to become a client of. And that, 30 years ago, it was the late 80s. That was a good chunk of change at that point. Still is today, but not as much as.
Yeah. And matchmakers are always considered an investment or a dating service. And there's a distinction too, or so women always look for financial parity, or they want their guy at the same level or higher. Historically or traditionally, men, not as much. We can talk about that later. But a good matchmaker too looks for their client everywhere. So you think outside of the box, you're actively recruiting and scouting, which is sometimes different than a dating service where it's just like a paid organization. So I find that that can be restrictive. And in terms of how dating has also changed, I think geographic boundaries have expanded. So with technology, you and I are Zooming, we're in different cities. People can check each other out that may not be close to home initially. And technology has just advanced getting to know someone and make it easier as well.
Yeah, there's all sorts of benefits to this technology, and then there's all sorts of cautionary tales in terms of finding that bride somewhere in the former Soviet bloc.
Yeah.
And we've seen that situation where they really they know the divorce laws really well. They have one. They want to get their green card and they want to get their alimony, and they're kind of a little bit predatory. Now, what's the difference? Let's say I'm going to take an arbitrary age, 35 and up. What's the difference dating at that point versus when you're younger and kind of more carefree and maybe not as discerning in your younger years? You tend to be a little bit more decision.
Yeah, you just picked the age that I use too. I'm like the 35 and under plan in terms of you're not yet tarnished by life and experiences. I mean, everyone has a unique story or background or family life, but you're typically somewhat more open-minded, hopefully. And when I say you're 35 and older, life starts to impact the lens that you look at situations. So that's one thing. So as you get older, sometimes your vision becomes more restrictive as opposed to expansive. Humans are always judgy and critical. But another key distinction at 35, and I think you've done some research, Oris, is 35 and under, women very much are in the driver's seat when it comes to dating. And they're probably actually at their most selective. And the men are not as advanced in their careers or as set financially. And then after 35, things start to shift. And this also comes into play with having kids. So, 35 is considered still advanced maternal age for someone wanting to have kids, and you want to have a relationship first. So that changes. And then the man's cachet, because we talked about money in the position, looking for financial parity, men start to make more money, and women are very much always looking for that provider, that security. So as the man becomes more secure, makes more money, his cachet rises. And sometimes women, the pool of available singles starts to change as well. So in terms of numbers. And every market in Canada and the US, North America, is different in terms of where there's, let's say, more single women or men, but traditionally that's kind of like an age where things start to shift.
Now, when you say there, so you're saying that there's more women looking for relationships after age 35 than there are men. The pool change, the numbers in the pool change. Is that true for as we get older into our 50s and 60s and things like that?
Well, single women start to outnumber single men. And there's a book that's really good. It's called Nomics. And it even talks about universities, for example. And they say that now women are starting to surpass men in terms of education. There's a bit of an imbalance. So just in terms of pure demographics, there's more younger men, like in the teens and the early 20s, and over 35. It's not looking for relationships. Women typically always look to pair off. A lot of men kind of wait. They don't have their clock ticking, or they don't need to settle down as much, or they maybe want to have fun, so they're wild oats, whatever. It's a question of supply and demand. So I'm going to use the universities, for example. So when there's an oversupply of single women, men kind of behave badly. And I'll use universities as an example. They sort of want to fool around.
No, not men wouldn't behave badly.
Yeah, they don't want to lock the woman down. But when there's an oversupply of men, let's say in the younger demographic sometimes, and you're at if you're at a school where there's more women, a lot of the men will not want to settle down. But wherever there's a location where there's more single men, they will want to pair off and have a relationship. So when you asked about the age thing, I was referring more to the cachet of the guy improving the confidence level. I also say that men and women incubate at different rates. I'm generally speaking here, but women mature in certain levels more quickly than men. And you see that even like in schools with kids and fine motor skills and just communication and stuff like that. We're just different creatures.
Is your life not working out? Have you tried programs and they did not work? Do you want to create a vibrant life for yourself and those that you love? Well, if you do, then get on a short call with me to find out if we're a mix. You can go to www.thestandard.academy, get to know you, and schedule a short call with me. If we're a match, great. If not, that's fine too. Either way, I'm going to have a free gift for you. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. Do it now. Yeah, no, I mean, I did not get married till I was 40. And so I was kind of, my wife said I was going into permanent bachelorhood. And then my reply to that is she was 30 when I married her. So I saved her from spinsterhood.
Well, there you go. That's your interpretation, but everyone incubates at a different rate, right? You can have a super mature person who's younger.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by the way, it wasn't just my interpretation; it was her grandmother's interpretation. She was really thrilled. But we had kind of an interesting story. What is there an ideal age disparity between men and women, or that when you try to find clients and put them together, is there an ideal age disparity, or do you keep them in the same age range, or what?
Well, everyone has their personal preferences. Men, even when they're 90, I set up a woman in her 80s and I was interviewing guys in their 80s and 90s, and the available pool at that age is quite diminished. Even men in their 90s, men are very much visually driven, sexual attraction is so key. Even then, the guys wanted to get, the hot tomato or someone that they were attracted to. And in terms of age, I always ask someone's preferences. Men can have a preference for younger. It depends on where they are, whether they want to have kids or not. So if someone's, in their 40s and they want to have kids, they might want to meet someone who's younger. So they have a foundation for a relationship first. So people have a range, and I talk to them about their range. I actually on age, because people are super ageist, which leads me to my next point. Everyone is different in terms of how they age. And when I say we're super ageist, we have a preconceived idea of what someone like when they're 30, what they're like, what they're 40 or 50 or 60 or 70. And I try to stay away from age because humans are judgy. So you either look good for your age or you don't. And it's all about lifestyle factors. And I think it's about chemistry. So I talk to people about their age preferences. I don't want to set, there's some Hollywood couples, I'll use them as an example because that's what people see, where they have huge age gaps. You can make anything work. There's studies that are available in terms of ideal age range, whether it's 5 to 10. I mean, I always tell people to try to be as open as possible on age. Let's say within 10 years, or you have outliers or even more. It depends on a lot of different factors, so not just age. And everyone, Orist, over the age of 40, the number one thing that I hear that drives me crazy is that they look 10 years younger. And sometimes when someone turns 60, they tell me they look, 20 years younger. So that's justification for wanting someone who's, 10, 20 years younger. So men historically, may date up to their age, but would typically look for younger. And women I say women want it all. And so I try to get them to date someone around their age. You can date someone a few years younger, but men with a lot of money typically are more discerning in terms of what they're looking for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess that's the term trophy wife comes into play.
Well, it's so much more than that. I mean, that could be a financial arrangement. You talked about the Russian mail order bride. Well, that is clearly a financial arrangement. The woman's going in there with the intent to get a green card in the wallet and knows the divorce laws. So be careful what you wish for is what I always say, right?
Oh, absolutely. So you set people up on a date. What constitutes a good first date?
A good first date, I recommend that we give people guidelines, like how to have a good first date. It could even be a phone call. It could be a FaceTime call or a Zoom call. But in terms of a first date, I always say keep someone wanting more. And I'm all for not dinner, but like a drink and a cocktail helps to take the edge off if you drink, but never get drunk. You can even do an activity. So where we live, Vancouver is like super sporty and outdoorsy. So you can go for a walk. Men are comfortable often side by side. So you want to be in an environment where you can be seen and where you can be heard. You have people judge you on the first impression. So a good first date, you want to be relaxed. You want to ask questions, but you don't want to grill the person. You want to have like a yin or a yang, right? And you want to focus on the present and the moment and really listen to someone. And you want to stay away from X talk or dating talk or what sites you've been on or whatever. Like you really want to be present in the moment. You want to have your phone, unless you have kids and you're worried about your kid or you have a work emergency, keep that phone away and focus on the other person. Leave them wanting more. And you want to have open-ended conversations. And Oris, the most important thing too, is you want to have fun. You want to keep things light and easy and establish common ground. And you want to look good. If you look like a bum, you're not getting to a second date.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think in so many ways, I mean, in my coaching program, I talk a lot about grooming.
Oh yes, that's a whole conversation.
Yeah, because that's you see that so often. You see that you got a woman that's dressed like high heels, short skirt, really attractive looking, and she's with a guy who's got a T-shirt that's got food stains on it, and you're going like, he must have a lot of money,
or he's
or whatever. Oh yeah.
And he's going to be voted off the island. And in terms of grooming too, I'm hoping you're talking to men in the older demographic about their nose hairs and their ears hairs and their clipping and their teeth. I mean, that's so important.
Everything. Because
excellent.
Nothing will kill off a kissing session than having the woman look up at you and see your nose hairs are growing out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And women are looking. I often say, like, we're super critical and analytical. And for dating, look for reasons to say yes, not no. But women notice everything from shoes to belts to glasses to fingernails. And as long as one thing I'm going to say too, a lot of people need fairy dust in terms of maximizing their look and their assets and their presentation. So know when to ask for help and how to position yourself in a really positive way. And that includes photos. But you really have to invest in how you look, because you want someone to want to see you again. But the one thing
Sure.
I do love about working with men, you coach them, I coach them, is in my experience, men take direction really well. And I can say, Bob, you don't look current, your jeans don't fit, you're trying to attract the hot chick, you got to invest in how you look.
Yeah. Yeah. I usually, sometimes, so I think I found that sometimes men have, there's a guy at the cigar place that I go to. He's probably in his 80s, and he's looking to find someone to date. And I mean, he's financially well off, incredibly well off. And it was funny because I say, like, well, I think you need to hire a dating coach. And he goes like, why don't I know how to date? I'm going like, well, how's it working out for you?
Exactly.
You're talking about the same problem for a year and a half. Obviously it's not, talking about asking for help. It was just kind of like, he was just, so self-confident and so assured, but it's not working out for you.
Know what you know and know what you don't know, and know when to go to an expert.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you get into a relationship and you move through it. There's always a question about when do you have emotional intimacy? How about that? That's a nice word for sex.
You mean sex?
Yeah. What's sex? I do also caution people in my coaching program. If you are in a committed relationship and you keep on saying, I want more sex, that you will get less sex the more you say that.
Depends. I mean, you always have to communicate what your expectations are.
Well, yeah. But I mean, if you just say, what I think, again, I'll say this is that while men say that, what they're really craving is spiritual, emotional, and physical intimacy. And that kind of comes across differently than saying, like, I want more sex. Give me sex.
Well, it depends on, we can talk about the love languages, and men often have physical touch and intimacy. And some women are hornier than guys, like hormones play a huge role in that too. But just back to the right, I'm going to say there's no hard and fast rule. So you have to feel comfortable with the person. And I'm all for kissing and checking about, heat and stuff like that. But if you feel comfortable and you have a connection, I don't stick to like, minimum 5 days or 5 dates, or a month. It's when you progress. And I'm all for too checking out the goods. So if you have a connection with someone and the person, you're both on the same page in terms of what your long-term expectations are, or even short-term expectations. Some people haven't had a relationship for a long time and they want something more casual. So they may just want to have sex, have it safely, because the highest rate of STDs is around boomers going crazy. So it depends on where someone's at, what their expectations are. A woman doesn't want to sleep with a guy for the most part, unless they're polyamorous with, guys who are sleeping with multiple women. So check the intention. Is there a commitment there? Are you progressing? There is a fact that men can fall in love much more quickly and they're more romantic than women. And they do connect and bond through sexual intimacy that hardwires your brains to feel more attached to someone. So I'm not for game playing and stuff like that. It depends on how you're progressing together as a couple, and you can have conversations about things. But there are some guys who may have sex. The dynamic changes once you have sex, for sure. And you want to make sure that you continue and to build upon that.
Yeah. Your comment about the STDs is pretty funny. There's a place in outside Phoenix metro area. We used to live in Phoenix, but now we live in Las Vegas. It's called Sun City.
Yep.
And so they the biggest thing was is a 55 and over community, and the biggest thing was couples having sex on the golf course.
Really? Wow, that's pretty randy. I like that.
Yeah, that was in daylight.
Are you serious? So what happened when the marshal came over? Did he get rid of it?
Well, I don't know, but it was, but they were writing about it in the paper that was going on. So that was pretty
crazy.
Thank you for joining Dr. Orist and his incredible guest. Like what you heard and learned? Then be sure to do 3 things. 1, subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. 2, share this with someone who may need to hear it. 3, leave a review and rate this podcast. Opt in at www.thestandard.academy/magazine and get our free digital magazine with savings, articles, and deeper dives into cool controversy. Be the guy who takes action. Without action, you're not going to get the results you want. Thank you again, and make it a great day.